An old man making charcoal. One day a wife of a person who was once served as prime minister suddenly disappeared and went missing. And when he searched for her, he found her living with an old man who was baking charcoal in a mountain valley in Gyeolje. So he asked her why she was here, and when he asked her to follow him home she said, "I'm sorry but I like the old man so I will live here," and she didn't go back. It was so ridiculous. His previous job and everything was useless. With what reason in a previous life the old woman left someone like me, except the king, I was in the best post in this country, and went away because she fell in love with that old man who looked the ugliest man in the world. It was so curious and outrageous. So he immediately went into Ode Mountain and asked the monk. He said, "If you practice sun meditation yourself, you will know it when you get the Sugmyeong Tong, super knowledge of the past lifetimes. So do it anyway." He was so much angry, offended, and doubtful that he practiced sun meditation day and night, without knowing that he was hungry, and if he felt hungry, he would get a spoonful, otherwise he wouldn't eat. He practiced sun meditation to die for 3 years. It didn't matter if he knew or didn't know such trivial things, so never try to know about such things, and he had to practice only with the will for Gyeolje, sudden and complete enlightenment, and Gyeonsung Sungbul, seeing self-nature and attaining the Buddhahood. But he was very angry, offended, and heartbroken about his wife running away. So he was constantly thinking about it and practicing sun meditation day and night. He suddenly realized, but it wasn't Nujin Tong, supernormal power of the complete extinction of affliction, but it was Sukmyeong Tong, super knowledge of the past lifetimes, and he knew that he was a monk who had practiced at Odesan Mountain in his previous life. Because I told you this story before, I'm sure many of you know this story. His wife was a body louse that lived in his rags in her previous life. After being a body louse, it lived inside of his rags. In winter he couldn't wash the rags, so he wore it without washing through winter. It gradually grew bigger in it. So he could not rip and kill it, and if he threw it out outside it would freeze to death. Since this is all a relationship from a previous life, he let it live in his rags, and when he felt itchy he opened his rags. A big barley-sized body louse sucked blood in there and moved slowly and slowly. It gave birth to several cubs, and when he was bored he took them out of his rags, and he used to let them wrestle and run in the room which is used for monks to take a rest. As winter is over he was going to take off his rags and washing it. He took his rags off and had to wash them, but if he just brought them and boiled them, all the lice would be going to die. At that time a dog just came to him. He passed all the lice to the dog. He said, "Go to the dog and live well." And then he sent them all to the dog. That dog became an old man who baked charcoal in the next life. When she lived inside of the monk's rags as a body louse in her previous life, she lived as a prime minister's wife. But when the time came back for her having been sent to the dog, how could she get to the mountain? She who lived in Seoul carried a bundle and walked recklessly to find the old man, a charcoal maker, in the mountain in Gyeolje. She couldn't find the old man's house at once. First she went to a marketplace in Gyeolje and walked around here and there. In the meantime she saw an old man who were making charcoal. After talking with him and falling in love, she ended up following him. How must she have lived happily in a noble family as a wife of the prime minister? But she fell in love at first sight with a charcoal maker. When she met him for the first time in her life, she didn't feel he was a stranger. She felt like the person who she had lived with before. So she just followed him at once without any hesitation. During the Joseon dynasty in Korea, there was a clear difference in status between men and women, so they couldn't talk to men casually, but at first sight she liked him and felt good. So she followed the charcoal maker and lived without even a bowl of water, a kind of informal wedding ceremony, immediately. And it was useless for her former husband to just hold her hand in tears and ask for returning home. Because she pretended not to know it completely, and she didn't return home, her former husband was so speechless that his heart was broken. So he went to Odesan Mountain crying, and eventually learned all of his past life. I don't mean to talk about causality now, but I doubt why your eyes are bright when you sit down and chat, but then you doze off whenever I talk about sun meditation dharma. Josel Snim also said, I hate to see you doze off, so I close my eyes and talk about sun meditation dharma. The reason why you feel sleepy when you hear the sun meditation dharma is that if you practice correctly after hearing the sun meditation dharma correctly, the palace of Magun, soldiers of a demon, would be shaken, their territory would be narrowed and all their power and everything they had would be destroyed. So in order to keep you from hearing the sun meditation dharma, all Magun, soldiers of a demon, all over the world go up all over the eyelids of sun meditation listeners. It is pressing your eyelids so heavily that no matter how hard you try to open your eyes, you can't. Even if you pinch your thighs with your fingernails, the heavy eyelids still remain. Therefore, when I talk about sun meditation, too many people doze off, so I sometimes talk about this story of causality, and if you listen to it with a belief in the true Dharma, it becomes the Chisang Sungbup, the unsurpassed teaching of the Buddha. After listening to the story of causality, if you repent your mistakes and arouse your mind to attain supreme enlightenment and correct your wrong personality, and then you can truly believe and practice the true Dharma, that becomes the Chisang Sungbup, the unsurpassed teaching of the Buddha. There may be some husbands who have left beautiful, calm, skillful and decent wives behind, looking away, getting mistresses or staying out overnights. At that time, when you think of this charcoal-making old man and the story of the wife of a prime minister, you can say, I guess this is because of the karma I built in my previous life. The reason he abandoned you is not because he hates and dislikes yourself. Because he handed the lice that lived in his body to the dog in his previous life. When you think of the prime minister's wife who went to an old man who was so ugly and lowly that he couldn't be compared to the prime minister. You hate and resent your husband, or you hate and hate the woman he likes, and you try to get rid of her from your husband by all means. There is a funny story about a wife who tried to pry her husband's secret about mistresses by paying a lot of money, but eventually his crime against the law was discovered, and finally got her husband handcuffed. Your husband doesn't come back to you just because you're in a fight with him, just pretending you don't know it, and you're more faithful to your family, good to your husband, good to your children, and if you thoroughly aware of the causality and do your best at sun meditation, then you can forgive your husband and you will be able to see life straight ahead and live your life as a better wife, as a housewife, as a mother, and live each day meaningfully. Rather, it will become an opportunity to have your sincerity to arouse the mind to get enlightenment, and it will be possible to attain the Do. If you live like that, your husband will have an affair for a while and then he will be supposed to come back home again. Without recognizing it rightly and knowing how to wait, if you keep trying to push your husband hard to take his mistress off from him, she'll stick to your husband even more. When it was a secret that your husband was cheating on you at first, he fulfilled his minimum obligations as a husband to the family as well. Then later, when his wife really knows the details that her husband cheats her on, her husband does not even do the minimum duty for the family. He becomes a stranger and becomes an enemy, and in the end, he may not return to the family again. A couple's relationship is connected to a previous life and they meet again. Whether the husband is having an affair or the wife is having an affair, all of these relationships are what he built up like that in his previous life and they're bound to meet such husbands and wives again. A guy who has made many women cry in his previous life and had dishonest relationships are born as a woman in his next life. And no matter how well she behaves, even though she's pretty and skillful, there are many cases where she's continually betrayed by her husband. There isn't a single thing that violates the law of cause and effect in all things and phenomena in the universe. Everything, large or small, human or beast, all matters are created, changed, and continually flows according to the law of the exact cause and effect. We won't think of such causality as a single story solely for good triumph over evil. And it isn't different from the proverb, as one sows, so shall he reap. What you thought for a moment in your mind is that it doesn't fall somewhere to the wrong place. Every little thing like that becomes a reality. If something you expressed outside through your mouth and your action, it is sure to be realized more concretely. Although Bulbup, Buddha's teaching, is certifying such a law of the cause and effect, fully awareing of it, on the other hand it is the way to transcend it is what is called this Bulbup, Buddha's teaching. It is not that the law of causality is denied and not certified, but that it is Bulbup, Buddha's teaching, to certify as it is and to transcend from there while knowing well that it is correct. If you misrecognize it, it can be led to denial of causality, but this is absolutely not the case. Also, if you misunderstand the law of causality, you will be obsessed with it and you won't get freedom because you are bound, which is also wrong. The way to recognize the law of causality correctly but transcend it, this is to believe in Bulbup, Buddha's teaching, correctly. If you misunderstand the law of causality, you will fall into fatalism. And if you don't acknowledge the law of causality, it's a person who doesn't have the right mindset. People these days never try to acknowledge the law of causality, they just deny it. Such people are extremely short-sighted, so they still have completely clogged ears. Science is now in a very childish stage, and it cannot be said that science has developed so well. This level of science was already developed 4,000 years ago, and I think there must have been a time when science was more developed 10,000 years ago. Seeing that traces of civilizations that are far more advanced than modern civilizations such as the Maya civilization are being excavated from the ground under the sea, today's science has not developed so well, and the fact that it has developed is in a childish stage. Can be said that science has developed and has made humans a little more convenient, but it is very worrying that it has developed in such an undesirable way that it is very harmful to humans and even destroys mankind. The world is becoming a world that is becoming increasingly sick and difficult to live in because of those foolish people who do not know that there is a truly great way for us to live, are immersed in science in its childish stage, and who, even without knowing it, slander Buddhism as a superstition. Here, the Buddhists who believe in the Chisang Sungbup, the unsurpassed teaching of the Buddha, must thoroughly believe in the causality and correctly recognize it and then get into the way to true Dharma on the basis of the causality and practice it. Only then will we ourselves live correctly and truly. Recognizing that we have a great and pressing duty and mission to lead the foolish and pitiful human beings to live right and to be true people, I ask you to practice rigorous self-discipline more thoroughly than during this Han-Go summer retreat. Not to mention the Bosalnams, female Buddhists, who are in Bangbu, staying to practice during summer or winter retreats, and the people who participate in this 100 days prayer are also same as mentally in Bangbu, so while you lead a family life, sit or stand, do something, or when you're upset, even when you're in a hard time, whenever and wherever always try the phrase, imoko. Key phrase. What is this? Especially when you feel hurt. It's time to practice more, it's time to test my exertion, and it's a good assignment to take my exertion one step further. Thinking like this, I earnestly ask you to practice hard at home as much as those in the temple.